Welcome, everybody, to this week's Founder Chat. I'm Melanie Ewan. I am one of the co-founders and managing partners at Volition, where we build connectivity and capacity and knowledge in global startup ecosystems. And today we're talking with Sami Majadla, who is the co-founder and CEO of CertiCraft. I have a little blurb about what CertiCraft is, then we're going to get into essentially a 30-minute kind of informal interview about the origin stories of CertiCraft and what you've learned as an entrepreneur and how we can support you. And of course, if you're joining us here live or if you're watching this on IGTV or YouTube later, feel free to ask questions as well, and we'll make sure to get to as many as we can. So we first met Sami back in 2020 when you were part of the cast the Kootenai Association for Science and Technology put on this program. It was the Venture Acceleration, is that correct? Program?
It's the Venture Acceleration Program, but then they did a pitch competition.
Right.
And
yes.
that's where Volition sponsored that pitch competition.
Yes. So part of that, you won that pitch competition. You met my managing partner Paul through the masterclass, through some coaching, and then you also pitched at one of our Amplify events back in November. So I think this is kind of how we first got to meet you, and then it's just been an ongoing conversation and relationship since then.
It's been a very fun one, I'll say
that. Yeah. And I'm excited to get to know you better here today because I know we've only kind of briefly met at that Amplify, and everyone else on the team is getting to know you better except for me. So I get to have this 30 minutes.
Yeah, you get to know me better in a very public way, unlike everybody else.
Yeah, exactly, which is my favorite
So I have to keep my jokes in check.
Nah. Amazing. So for anyone here, it sounds like a lot of you are already familiar with CertiCraft and with Sami, but if anyone here is watching is not, CertiCraft is a software company that helps licensed craft cannabis growers stay on top of their compliance records and monthly reports so they can be audit ready. And that's kind of a lot of different pieces, and I don't even know what all those pieces mean. I don't remember last time I saw you pitch, and I don't know if it's changed since then. I know you've been so busy this year, so I'm really excited to hear.
It's been crazy busy.
I know, yeah. You're doing so many things all the time, and you're constantly like, we're hiring and all these exciting things. So let's just dive right in. And I love to start with the origin story, but if there's anything else that you want to get started with and let us know a little bit about who you are, I'm just going to hand it over to you. Go for it.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm Sami, like Melanie was saying. Origin story. Well, I guess my background is, I'll do a bit of my own personal origin story, then I'll get into the CertiCraft origin story. Yeah. My background is that I've always loved technology. As a kid, I always was into just learning anything to do with tech. I was really into video games, and I actually started learning how to program because I wanted to make video games. I figured out when I was in 9th grade, I think, I was like, oh, if I want to make a video game, I need to learn how to program. So that's when I was 12 years old is when I started learning how to program, and went to university, was working on a degree in astronomy and astrophysics because I was super into that, and then learned very quickly within a few weeks that at the university level it's math, astronomy and physics is just math, and I didn't really want to spend 4 years getting deep into math. Like I wanted to learn about black holes, not the math behind black holes.
Sure.
So I switched to a computer science degree because I knew that I liked programming, and it was fun for me, and it was an enjoyable thing. And so that's kind of my background. I've always been into technology. For the past decade, I've created a bunch of different companies. Right. My other big love in life is music. I'm a music producer and performer, and that my dream is to travel the world and make people dance, and that's what I want to be doing in my life. But there is a starving artist stereotype for a reason, and so I've kind of been doing this dual career thing for the past decade, where I've both been developing my music performance career, and I have been on a few tours. I've gotten to live out my dreams somewhat. Like I've gotten to play in a club in San Francisco and rock some stages around festivals on BC and Alberta. So that's been really awesome to actually get to do that. And simultaneously, I've been starting different companies in the software internet world so that I can have the freedom to travel the world while having a source of income and trying to use my legitimately highly sought after skills to develop financial stability for myself that is a lot more independent and open-ended. And I've started, I'd say, 4 or 5 companies prior to CertiCraft. some of which failed, some of which succeeded, all of which had amazing products that we developed within, and all of which were just an amazing educational experience. Both the good and the bad, and there's been some very good and some very bad that's taken place. And all of it's just led to me being in a place now where when this opportunity came along, that I was really ready to actually make the most of it and know how to approach it, know how to navigate things through mistakes that I've made in the past, through what I've seen before. And I guess the way this project came about, Mr. Nicholas Wong, who said hi earlier, him and another person had started this company. They were really interested in the world of blockchain, and they were trying to figure out how to have like a legal blockchain product that would do good things in different ways. And they played around with a few different ideas, and they eventually settled down on this idea of tracking the cannabis supply chain as it moves through the different facilities on the blockchain, and using that to give consumers transparency into what they are considering putting in their body. And I was brought on board as the first programmer to build that blockchain. And within a day or two, I told them very honestly that you guys don't need somebody to build a blockchain. You need somebody to kind of architect the system as a whole and to really make sure this is the right thing. Like, you haven't really challenged your assumptions or made sure this is really the path forward, that it's going to be viable as a business, and kind of leaning on all my experience from being an entrepreneur for a decade at that point. And basically proposed to them, hey, let me spend a few months just really doing that legwork first. And they were supportive of that. And I went out and started talking to all kinds of different licensed producers. But this is back in 2018, and learned pretty quickly that they all loved the idea of this. I'll call it a transparency platform, but that nobody's going to spend a dime on it. And when I asked them all why they wouldn't spend any money on this software, the answer was always the same. It was our compliance. We're paying for software to help manage our documentation and our compliance, and it's honestly just terrible. We're wasting thousands of dollars every single month. We're wasting hundreds of hours of busy work every single month, and it's doing a bad job. And until we actually have
pain point,
until we have a thing we can rely on, we're not gonna pay for anything else. And I heard that same response from 6 or 7 different companies, and after that, I just went back to the team and I was like, this is what we need to build. This is this is a unanimous thing across the board. And so the team at the time, they decided to support that, but they also didn't want to let go of the other idea, because that was like the baby that the initial founders had kind of been really wanting to realize. And so we kind of worked on these two things simultaneously. Long story short, the blockchain thing completely failed. The company went into some really hard times where we were in debt, and there was just all kinds of shit that wasn't pleasant to navigate through. And myself and Nick and the third engineer who was involved and got really into the compliance side, the three of us decided to take over the company and kind of try to right the ship and just go fully into the vision of what we believed would be successful based off of actual needs in the industry. And so we had a lot of meetings and conversations to just set our intentions, make sure we're all on the same page. Really taking the time to make sure that there really was the right fit between us as founders and between and the way we wanted to navigate this business, the values you wanted to instill in the business, and so on and so forth. That's one thing I've really learned in the past through various failures and startups in the past, how important it is to really make sure that you are fully aligned with the values of your co-founders, that it really is a marriage, and you don't want to marry somebody before dating, it's you
have to learn your communication skills, and it's so that's Paul and I've learned so much about each other in the past 5 years, and been through rough times, and then got through that. It's very much like a marriage.
It totally is. It's just such a deep commitment, and
it is,
when there's money and livelihoods involved, it cuts that much deeper, and it's that much more of a sensitive topic, and anybody who's an entrepreneur cares so much, which makes when there's a serious conflict, it makes it that much harder, because everybody cares on such a deep level. And so ensuring, and we'd been through that with this company with the earlier founders who didn't succeed in their vision, and kind of navigating the tough times that came from that. So I think everybody understood firsthand how difficult it can be when there isn't that alignment of values and vision. And so for us, it was really important to make sure that we were fully aligned. And so we spent that time, and I guess the other origin aspect to talk about of what led us to what we're doing now, the compliance side. A few of those early licensed producers that we talked, they were telling us what they needed. They helped me design what they wish they had, like just in terms of wireframes and things like that. And then, you know, towards this time where that big shift happened and we like started over essentially with the current founding team, we were starting to get licensed producers asking us how much our software costs just from wireframes without anything built yet. So we really knew that we were onto something at that point. And what we found though is we started talking to like the higher ups, because we were talking to people on the grow team, people who would be on the floor using our system. And what we found is that we started talking to bigger and to the people who actually make financial decisions on these teams. Those conversations really sucked. Like those people were not pleasant people to interact with. Like, there was
they didn't
very
get
much
the pain at that
level.
level.
Well, it wasn't so much that. It was all about like the relationship is about like what can I get out of you? How can I take advantage of you? It wasn't an attitude of like, how can we collaborate and make this industry better? It was an attitude of like, I am just looking at this as purely a financial transaction, and I'm not gonna like pretend it's otherwise. Which I appreciate that transparency of like they just aren't looking to build like really solid relationships. But yeah, it was very clear that it was like a dog eat dog world and not like a world that was community oriented. And it just didn't feel good kind of interacting with those companies and those big corporations. And we ended up also deciding that we didn't want to support that either. We didn't want to support like corporate enterprises that don't really have any kind of like community oriented feel to get more care of that sort. And we also, so we started looking into the craft industry where Nick had a few connections and talking to producers there, and we realized, and just for anybody listening who doesn't understand what that is, craft cannabis is essentially small scale cannabis. It's producers who've been growing for decades and really care about what they're doing. They're passionate about what they're doing. They care about quality, and they have built a really phenomenal community that's really interesting because it's an underground community, with cannabis being illegal for so long, but a very tight knit community that with many families within it. There's like 50,000 producers across Canada. It's a surprisingly large market for people who aren't involved in the cannabis industry and don't really understand quite how massive it is in Canada. And we realized pretty quick that there was no solution whatsoever for those smaller scale producers who are the backbone of the Canadian cannabis industry. And you know, talking to those producers, everybody, like they were all people we wanted to be friends with. There was no more facades, no more like look how cool I am in my suit and I'm talking down to you because you're wearing a t-shirt. A t-shirt with awesome cats and
I love it.
Something Titanic.
What? What does it mean? That's amazing. You need to find your people.
And so we found our people, and that became and actually, because we built our software for producers, it didn't really matter what size you were on, because growing cannabis doesn't really change from one size to the next. It's just the number of plants that you're working with. But on a bigger scale, people want more of an ERP type software, so which means that they wanted a lot more capable accounting modules and HR modules and things like that, which meant that getting to market would take us years longer because they didn't really consider us till we had all those pieces. So focusing on the craft industry meant a few things. It meant we actually liked the people we were working with. We were the only solution available for a gigantic market, albeit a market that was not licensed yet. So there's a challenge there. And that we could get to market a lot faster. So that kind of really solidified what we were doing with CertiCraft. And then the name CertiCraft came out of that because the craft cannabis is part of that. We're helping people certify their craft. We eventually do want to bring back that transparency platform, so it'll be more of like a certifier of craft cannabis. There's a lot of like different ways in which that name CertiCraft kind of plays into what we're doing on many different levels. And that was in, I want to say like March of 2019 or so. And
wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I feel like you just like packed in a whole bunch of lessons into that as well, which I love.
There's a lot to unpack in that.
I have so many. Because I was like, my immediate thing was like, oh, did you end up making a video game? And then I was like, oh, music. That's so exciting. I want to know more about the music stuff. And then you said so many things that are very important. And I know you said you learned this over your 10 years of being an entrepreneur yourself, But like, I love that you told the story because it's kind of gives that like really tangible, instead of me just saying, make sure you talk to your customers, like listen to stories like this because you demonstrate through that CertiCraft kind of journey the importance of talking to your customers and saying, we have this idea, is this even what you need? What is it that you need? What are you struggling with right now? And then hearing, yeah, actually we wouldn't pay for that, but this is something we really, really need. And then going with that and being agile and willing to take that on is incredible. And I love then talking about values, because then you're saying you spent a lot of time like figuring out values, which then I'm assuming helped you make that decision not to work with those those big corporations that sounds like maybe they weren't as values aligned.
Well, that was part of what, there were two things I'd say that triggered that conversation around values. One is working with those big corporations and not really having like an enjoyable experience.
Right.
And the other is having our company fail at that point in time with the initial founding team.
Yeah.
And, the missteps that they took that led us to that point. And kind of being in a position where we had a choice of, hey, we love what we've been doing on the compliance side, but if we try to move forward with this, then we're carrying all this baggage along from missteps taken by other people. And we can't separate the two because the company technically owned the IP, so we couldn't just create our own new company and start from scratch.
Right.
Or we could, but then we'd have to like redo everything from scratch. We'd already built a pretty good technical foundation baseline. And so those two things combined, just I was not willing to move forward without having like a really in-depth multi-week conversation about intentions and really making sure that after reflection, everything felt good to all three of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think, no, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Because I'd been in positions before where I moved quickly with relationships and learned later how much it sucks if your values aren't aligned.
Learn later what? You cut out for a second.
Oh, I said because I've been in companies before where I didn't spend that time, and then you learn later how much it sucks if you don't have values that are lined up.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think it's really important. It's a conversation that keeps happening as well, I think, as you grow and as new kind of decisions start happening. And so you did mention a little bit about the vision for CertiCraft. Is there a bit, what is like 1 year or 5 years from now, 10 years from now kind of look like? As are all different
question.
Goals,
yeah, great question. So right now we're in a really sweet position in that the momentum's going now. Like we have reached phase 1 of our vision. We built CertiCraft very slowly, and we didn't want to have a lot of customers. We wanted to like really make sure that the product was rock solid, that people loved it, that it really made a huge difference. We had a pilot project of just 2 people initially. We didn't want any more than that. And we had a goal of like building a really rock solid inventory system with those people. Once we hit that point, then we added a 3rd person. We had a pilot project of 3, and with that we wanted to get a good Health Canada reporting system. And we kept kind of doing that, where we would like jump from 2 to 3 to 7 to 12 to 15 people in a pilot project, each time adding a new goal with capabilities. And then last August, I'd say, is when we finished the pilot project. We finished like all the things we felt were necessary for having a rock solid system, and that's when we kind of publicly launched CertiCraft and no longer had to limit the number of customers you were down to have. And so it's been 10 months since then, and in those 10 months we've grown from 15 customers to just shy of 80 right now. So that's pretty exciting. And all this, like, we've never raised VC capital. We don't want to either. That's another aspect of values for us. We don't want to have our goal be to make investors a bunch of money and increase stock market price. Like that's not like the way we want to build our company. Like we definitely want to increase value in our company, and we have shareholders and we want them to have a great return on their investment, but not at the expense of having a sustainable business that's going to make an actual impact for the community that we're involved with. And so we're super excited that with like a super tight marketing budget, we've been able to reach the point that we're at right now. Our word of mouth is amazing. We're the only company. We had a feedback from a consultant that refers a lot of their clientele to companies like ours, and they've referred their clientele to every single competitor that we have and ourselves in the space. And they gave us feedback that every single client that they've referred to other companies has given them feedback that there's just some major issues, major things that they don't like about those relationships. And everybody that they've referred to us has had nothing but good things to say. So they're now
Nice.
exclusively referring people to us, which is just super exciting.
Yeah.
That just comes from having that care of, we're
Yeah.
not going to actually release our product until we're proud of it. And we know that it's rock solid and we're not. And yeah, so that's kind of where we're at now. Our vision a year from now is having more modules finished so that companies that are a bit larger, not like enterprise scale, but larger than what we're supporting right now, have all the tools they need. We've been one issue we've been having is we have, so with small scale producers, there's two different scales of licenses in the cannabis.
Okay.
Micro licenses are limited to as a grower to 200 square meters of canopy space where you can grow your flowers. A processing license allows you to turn that flower into different products and to package your cannabis and so on and so forth. The micro license there is up to 600 kilograms of product that you can operate on. And then there's standards for each of those license classes that allow you to have no limit to how much you can grow. And so with a standard, you can have anywhere from let's say a 1,000 square meter operation, which is still pretty craft cannabis, all the way to a 60,000 square meter facility, which is at that point, it's very corporate oriented. And so with kind of mid-tier companies that are let's say 1,000, 2,000 square meters, when we demo our software with them, they love us, they want to use us, but there's certain features they need that we don't have that makes them not choose to use us despite them preferring our system.
Right.
So over the next year, we are building those features out so that those middle-sized companies that are still on the craft scale are no longer have a reason to a legitimate reason
to not be able to use it. So the micro ones, are there companies or are they called companies? Growers? Are there growers that
they're definitely businesses,
businesses that are typically wanting to stay micro, or are they often wanting to grow into that larger but still craft mid-size? Is there, or kind of both?
Question.
There's a mix of both.
It's a mix, I'd say. I mean, because most of these facilities, I think most micros would have about a 400 square meter facility given a choice.
Okay.
However, getting a standard facility, Health Canada, the regulations are really bad. They're really terrible. They were not made with consultation of people in the industry. The federal government.
Well, why would you consult the people actually doing it? I mean,
terrible job. And Health Canada is one of the, I would say, the worst fits for the cannabis industry because they don't have any kind of mandate to support an industry. That's not in their mandate. They have no in-house expertise on agriculture. Their only mandate is to ensure that product is safe for human consumption. And their own all their expertise is in the pharmaceutical world. They're used to working with pharmaceutical drugs. And so they treat cannabis flower as if it is a pharmaceutical drug. They require people who are packaging cannabis to have a straight up pharmaceutical lab environment in order to package. It's ridiculous. It's a flower that is grown in literal shit. Why are you treating it as if it's a pharmaceutical drug? So all that is to say is that the current regulatory environment is terrible, and anybody who chooses to get licensed has to jump through so many hoops and go through so much bureaucracy. That's part of why we exist. It's because the regulations are terrible and people need help managing everything to stay on top of them. So our service saves people hundreds of hours every single month in terms of the busy work that they have to do, and it saves them a lot of time and stress.
And then it sounds like if you've built out the mid-size level though, and if maybe regulations are better one day, then people will be able to grow with you as well.
I think so, yeah. And the only reason I bring up all those regulations is that to be a standard, there's so many more security hoops you have to jump through that for a lot of small scale growers, they don't want to do that. And in fact, we have one customer, for example, Sweetgrass Cannabis, shout out to them. They're phenomenal, based out of Weimar, BC. Their strategy is to have 4 different micro facilities. It's just that much easier to have a micro facility, so they're growing in that kind of a way. We also have other customers who do want to grow into standard, or maybe they're starting with just micro cultivation and they want to get a micro processing license later as well. There's a lot of different ways people want to grow, but the legal framework right now is just really badly done.
And are you looking to stay within Canada, or as part of your growth strategy to leave? How difficult would that be?
It's a good question. We might in the future expand. I mean, it's not going to be that we've built our system to be easily expandable both to other jurisdictions and to other industries, any regulated
Right,
industry.
right, of course, yeah,
And so we kind of have left those doors open for us.
yeah,
But I don't know. I mean, cannabis in Canada on its own is like a pretty lucrative market
yeah,
on the scale of things. And we could scale our business quite a bit without ever leaving this market here. And every, if we were to enter the US, which is like the most logical next step, being just south of the border and having many states there having
that
legalized
are now
cannabis,
legalized, yeah,
it's just a very different world there. Like there's a lot, we have many more competitors there, and they're a lot more
right,
cutthroat. They all have VC funding, like millions and millions of
right,
dollars, and are just like out to get each other. And it's just going to add a whole bunch of stress. And when we think about our values, it's like, do we want that stress? Not
yeah,
really. Like it's
yeah,
been so
yeah,
stressful getting to where we are now,
yeah,
and we are now in a position where like our work is really paying off, where we're starting to be able to like take our foot off the pedal a little bit and kind of slow
yeah,
down, make some hires, like distribute the workload a bit more. And entering the US means that we're guaranteeing 3 or 4 more years of like just really stressful time.
right,
And that's not really
right,
like something that any of us want. Um,
no,
if an opportunity comes up where we can enter the US in a less stressful way,
yeah,
we're certainly open to it. We're not like
right,
opposed to it, but it's not like a be all end all goal. For us, the way we see ourselves expanding more, you talked about our 1 year, 5 year vision. I still haven't answered that question. I've been giving all the context leading up to it. I'll answer it now. So the 1 year vision, I'd say, is that we are supporting these larger scale growers that are still in the
yeah,
craft world.
yeah,
We're fully supporting the processing license. We're just building our first bit of our processing module right now, actually.
yeah,
And we're supporting people who do medical sales. There's a
okay,
different license called the Federal Medical
okay,
Sales License that allows you to circumvent the legal cannabis supply chain and instead have a storefront that you have medical patients that buy directly from you. And there's
right,
about three 350, I think, 350,000 medical patients registered in Canada today, and that number is
right,
going to keep growing.
yeah,
And that's really important for a lot of people because the distribution today sucks, and so it's the only it's the only really straightforward way to have viable distribution for a lot of producers.
mm,
That's what we're building right now over the next year. And a year from now, yeah, we're supporting those people. Let's say we've doubled or tripled our customer base from where we are right now,
okay,
building on the momentum that we have today. Today, we're signing new customers every single week. Well, we have for a few weeks now,
amazing,
and that's pretty new for us to kind of have built up our brand to this point, especially
that's
as a company that
fantastic,
does not have funding.
yeah,
And so we're super excited about that. 5 years from now, our vision is that we ourselves have become the source for Canadian craft cannabis worldwide. We are in a unique position in that all of our customers are like the best growers of cannabis, the best producers of cannabis in Canada.
yeah,
In representing, let's say five years from now we have 500 customers. In representing 500 customers producing the highest quality cannabis in Canada, we now have we have economic buying power. We have the ability, if we create a storefront where let's say half of our customers choose to be part of it, and now we have 250 stores that
mm,
consumers around the world can access where they know they can find the highest quality cannabis available in Canada. And
right,
Canada, especially BC with BC Bud, has such a strong global brand recognition.
right,
We really want to enable distribution for a lot of our customers. And there is a license, the federal medical license type class. There's two different versions of it. One is with possession, meaning you actually have like a warehouse and you have your cannabis there. The other is without possession, where you are essentially just acting as a broker, and that would be what
okay,
we would be
right,
doing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's there's a lot of things that we would solve, a lot of issues that all of our customers today are struggling with, that
yeah,
we would solve by building such a store, which is
yeah,
why we want to do it. Because again, it's talking to our customers, learning what they're struggling with, and knowing that that's going to solve a whole bunch of issues all at the same time, both for growers and for medical patients.
yeah,
And so, yeah, in 5 years, the vision is that we have built out that store and we have enabled many of our customers to export their cannabis, meaning they can double their profits.
mm,
We have enabled those that don't want to deal with exporting, because there is a lot more work you have to do in order to do that.
mm-hmm,
We've enabled them a viable path to market within Canada itself, and have all around just helped our industry thrive. Because right now, it's a huge challenge for people to get A, get a license, and B, get to market.
Yeah.
And our mission as a company is to help people transition and thrive in this world.
Amazing. Well, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to follow that journey and everything. I can see why the Volition team all rave about you because you seem to have this very like and intentional way of going about things and creating a plan, which we always like to hear. And that's amazing. What an incredible journey it looks like that you've already been on, but also looking forward to. So what can we as your community do to support you here today?
Well, I could really use a back massage. Man, it's been a while since I've but since this is COVID times and you're in a different city, there's two things that we're really looking for. I mean, we got some funding from the Canadian government to build out those new modules that I was referring to.
Yeah.
And the funding is specifically to hire a few developers. So
Right.
we're looking for 2 senior developers right now, ideally women, and I have a technical interview with somebody who I met last week who I really love as a human, and I hope she kills it in the interview because I really want to hire her.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you know any senior developers, especially people who identify as women who are awesome people who might be interested in what we're doing, that's connections I welcome and would really love. As
Okay.
I'm sure you're aware, the tech world is a very male-dominant industry, so
It is.
it can be hard to find women. Like when we've put a job ad up and we've had exclusively men apply until now. It's just like,
And a lot of it is the channels that we access. That's what I've been learning more and more. I already knew about this with working with women because I've been working in the women in tech space since 2017 and doing a lot of qualitative research and now more so working with Black entrepreneurs in BC and learning about like why we're not accessing these people. And it's really a lot of time because we're not getting onto the channels that they're on. Like the typical channels that we post things on often aren't the places that these people we're trying to actually reach are on. And so it takes that extra effort of like you sending me the job description and saying, hey Mel, can you post this on the Women in Tech kind of Slack channel and things like that. It does take that extra step, but is very appreciated. And the hope would be one day that will change and it'll be a lot easier for us to connect and access and trust each other. And I think that's great. So yes, everyone get the word out.
What I've been doing that I found works really well is to just I'm trialing LinkedIn Recruiter right now, which lets you actually just direct message people. And I've just been finding women that seem awesome and sending them messages directly. And that's had a pretty good response. So that's kind of been my strategy right now, but it is a lot of work. So
it is, yeah. So I really appreciate you taking that extra time. I think that's fantastic. And where can people reach out to you directly if they wanted to
get in touch? The best way to reach me would be Sami, that's SAMI, at CertiCraft.com. And is CertiCraft written somewhere in this like video thing? Will they be able to like see
it? Will be, yeah. So in the show notes, what's going to happen is it's going to end, and then we're going to re-upload it and we'll have some show notes, and this will be on IGTV and YouTube. So if you're watching this later, yes, it'll be in there. But it's CERTI and then craft, CRAFT. And you can find CertiCraft on you're on Twitter. I'm just looking at my list here. You're on Twitter at Certi_, Facebook. CertiCraft.com is where you can go find out more information. I think there's a video on there of like how it all works.
Yeah, there's lots of videos there, and we just started creating a whole bunch of content. So if you in the top of the CertiCraft.com website, there's a learning center link now. From that, you'll end up in a new website that we've created that's all about blog posts and videos and webinars and podcasts. We do a lot of creation of content to help people learn about the industry right now. So there's a lot
I was gonna ask about that. Every time I've had someone on here that's in the cannabis space, they always say education is such a huge part of what they do. Yeah, so I was going to ask about that, and this is the thing. I have so many questions, and I know we're over time now.
Oh, are we? I have a meeting at 12:15, so I'm assuming that
5 minutes. You have 5 minutes left. So I'm sure we can have you back, and I'd love to have you back to get like an update, and also hear. I'm sure there's so much more. You unpacked so many great lessons learned, and I'm sure you have more there as well. And but I want to make sure everyone heard. If you're still here with us, to head over to CertiCraft.com or to like and follow and do all the things on all the CertiCraft channels. And There's so many other things I'd love to talk to you about. I know you've talked about finding that work-life balance. I'm sure you have other tips for entrepreneurs. Is there anything you'd like to close with here today?
Uh, well, I got one more ask before I close, which is where
Yeah.
we're also trying to raise just over, excuse me, $500,000. So if you are an investor out there listening to this and you like what you've heard about our company, our values, what we're trying to realize here, do reach out as well to that same email. Closing remarks would be, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to make your dreams come true, go for it. And but also be practical, like make sure that there is an actual appetite
Yeah.
for what you're trying to do, and that you have like a team that will make it viable and sustainable. Because, when you're an entrepreneur, it's so easy to get sucked into this idea and this dream that you have. And the unfortunate thing about being an entrepreneur in a capitalist society is that other people have to be able to give you money for it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to build a business out of it.
Yeah.
So if your goal is to build a business and to have it be, a source of your livelihood, then that is critical. And, testing that out as soon as possible before you commit any time, energy, money into it. Like, that's the first thing you should be doing, checking your assumptions. How can you check your assumptions as cheaply and as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
And then once you've done that, if you know that, okay, this is actually going to work, then you have to figure out, like, how can I actually do this? Is this something I can do on my own and have it be sustainable and not go crazy? Because it's going to take years to get anything off the ground. It's not an easy endeavor. It's a huge commitment. And if the honest answer is no, this is way too much, or no, I don't have this I don't know how to market myself, I don't have that skill, then finding the co-founding team that can actually make it sustainable, where there is values alignment. And value alignment is hard, because if it's not somebody you've known for a while, then you don't really know what they're like yet. And things on paper might seem good, but then as you get to know them better, like, you just don't gel as humans. So that's really hard, and I would say, like, if you can, like, have a 6-month trial with new co-founders, if they're not somebody you actually know, just to see, like, as we get more comfortable and we deepen our relationship with one another, do we still click? Do we still gel? Because you don't want to be, it's like what we said earlier, you don't want to marry right away without dating and getting a sense of who
No, that's really smart. Absolutely. And this applies to, also, we have a lot of people coming in recently who are building nonprofits or looking to move into that, and that sustainability piece, and they'll having to be financially sustainable. That applies across the board, making sure that you're able to, like, figure that path and talk to your customers, and just listen back. If you just joined us right now, once we post this, listen back to the entire Instagram live here with Sami today, because he told the story of CertiCraft and lessons learned, and it's just such a perfect example of what to do. So I really appreciate you sharing all of that with us here today, Sami.
You are welcome, Melanie. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. And there's one thing I always like to close with asking, and that is, what is one thing that brings you joy right now?
Oh, books. I've been reading so much science fiction and fantasy, and actually I've been going outside of those genres that I tend towards, and stories make me happy. Stories and dancing are the two things that have kept me sane throughout this COVID period and building a business period. Just making sure that I take the time to go outside with headphones and dance in a park, or sit every night and read for a few hours, some various fictions, and those make me very happy.
Fantastic. Any books you recommend right now?
I just read most recently The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. That was a pretty phenomenal book.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited to read more, the 2 sequels to that. What else? I read Daughter of the Forest, which is pretty good. It was like a book set in the medieval ages, following Celtic culture, and a young girl who has magical powers, and
that sounds right up my alley.
really interesting book. Anything by N.K. Jemisin, I love her. She's
I keep getting recommendations for N.K. Jemisin. I'm gonna check that out.
Anything by her is amazing. Super dark worlds, so be prepared for a lot of fucked up shit, but very apt critiques of our society, I'd say.
Cool.
The Broken Earth trilogy, especially. That was my first thing I read by her, and then I've gone back to read a lot of her previous works, and her first set of novels I love as well. They're very different than her more recent stuff.
I love it.
I,
So,
I feel like it's probably past 12:15 and I'm late to the
oh,
meeting
right.
now.
It's 12:15 right now. Yes. Okay. I'll let you go. I'll let you go. I love books. I'm always trying to get recommendations. Thank you for that. And it's always nice to hear. It's always fun to hear like what entrepreneurs are doing to keep themselves sane, but also to find that joy. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for being here today, Sami. And we will have this up on IGTV and YouTube. Everyone can see that. I'll be back here, same time, same place as another founder, and looking forward to that. So I will talk to you soon, and we'll let you get back to your day, Sam.
Bye bye. Thanks, Melanie. Have a great
Bye.
day.
Bye.